the aim of the podcast is really to raise awareness about not only autism, but all types of neurodivergence.
Get Radio Breakfast with Richmond.
Really looking forward to our next conversation. I'm going to be joined by Andreia Costa, who works at the University of Oxford Department of Psychiatry. And she has got a fantastic podcast called the Neurodiverse Voices Podcast. Fascinating. Morning, Andreia. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, Rich. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. You are my first radio interview.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Here we go then. This is good. First radio interview. I'm sure of many more. Let's hope it goes brilliantly well and wonderful. So that fingers crossed for that. Let's jump in and dive in. The Neurodiverse Voices Podcast. Podcasts are a huge thing now. They are absolutely everywhere, and a really important avenue to kind of share stories and information. Just tell us about the journey of the podcast first and foremost.
Yeah, sure. So there's a combination of things that actually made me come up with the release of the podcast. The first one is my huge passion for radio from a very early age. I even wrote my dissertation on radio and the decline at the time with MP3 players that,
Wow.
you don't see them anymore.
No, you're right. Wow.
But it was, I think the biggest factor is being the mother to a beautiful autistic daughter. So I think my journey kind of brought everything together, and I don't work on the radio, but I can have my own podcast. And, learning about the softwares and what I could use, the microphone feels very comfortable. It feels like it's my best friend. It's some kind of therapy. And the aim of the podcast is really to raise awareness about not only autism, but all types of neurodivergence.
Wow.
And with that, I bring in guests who share their own lived experiences as parents, as professionals who work with neurodivergent children, and also who are neurodivergent themselves.
It's amazing. I want to just touch on just the radio aspect, and you used the beautiful phrase of saying that the microphone is your friend, and you've absolutely hit the nail on the head with it, because I'm sat here in a room. Speaking into a microphone, speaking to your good self as well, and there's all these people across the county that are listening. I know I can't see them. I don't know what a lot of them look like. I don't know what they sound like. I don't know what car they're driving, what they're living in, what anything really about them. However, we're all together at this moment right now, chatting about it, and that gives me such a warm and fuzzy feeling, and I think the same probably is for you, without putting words into your mouth.
Yes,
that is an amazing.
It's the magic.
Thing. Yeah.
Yes, it's the magic of radio, and I think that what was always what made me interested in it, because now with social media we actually get to see your faces, like I'm seeing your face, but back in the day not really. And it was always interesting to actually see some people from the radio doing commercials on TV and actually guessing who they were. And I do have that that capacity of easily recognizing some of them. So I just want to praise you for doing what you do, because it's really admirable from my point of view.
It's the reason we do why we want to do. And when I have an email from yourself going, I have this thing that I would like to talk about, and it's a subject that I'm not well versed in, and you are extraordinarily well versed in. And I love the learning aspect of it, and I love finding out new things about what people are doing and kind of going, that is brilliant and wonderful. So kind of take us back to the start. Was your kind of love of radio, you sort of mixed in with the fact that you wanted to get a message out there? The reason that you started the podcast, I'm sort of trying to sort of get that kind of what kicked the ball rolling, what started things off for you?
Yeah, so basically, as I said, the biggest motivation is the learning journey that I have with my daughter, and because I was in denial for quite some time, I really felt like sharing my own lived experience with other parents who might be listening to, and they might be at the beginning of their own journey, would help them, thinking I'm not alone. There is a community out there there is someone who is, sharing their experiences, and the feedback so far has been quite positive. Even so, not my first guest is Vina from Oxford Creators. She's the CEO. Oxford Creators is an alternative provision for children with special educational needs, because unfortunately the education system needs a lot of work. And hopefully with the new government, we will start seeing that. And I had someone here at the Department of Psychiatry telling me, Andreia, thank you so much, because I had no idea that children were excluded from school. So even those who don't have a neurodiversity or a neurodivergent journey, or they know someone and who are listening, are learning with it. And that's really good to see. And that's actually my aim. I'm pretty sure that at the moment my audience is mostly people who have someone they know with a neurodivergent child, or they know someone who's neurodivergent, but I really would like to expand it to society in general so that everyone learns, and one of the other reasons is the stigma that they're still around. And one of the feelings I had, for example, taking my daughter to the supermarket, which is a place full of sensory, it's sensory overload for her. So sometimes we have meltdowns and people tend to stare at us. And I feel like just don't, because that makes us feel guilty, that makes us feel bad. And if you listen to my guests, you will have a common message. My last question to all of them is, if your heart had a voice, what would it tell us? And everyone says, be kind, be curious, try to understand, because we need more of that.
No, absolutely, we do. And it's a fascinating thing. And in terms of the podcast journey, I've spoken to lots of people that have done podcasts on various different aspects. It always feels like the journey that you take with the podcast changes and morphs and what have you. And I guess you already know a great deal about the subject, of course, but doing the podcast, has it made you learn more? And obviously changing the avenue, you said you want to expand it into kind of something a little bigger and what have you. But have you certainly sort of found yourself learning off the guests that you've been speaking to, and just speaking and sharing stories?
Definitely. It's not about just learning how to put together the podcast and having ideas of how to improve it or enhance it in the future, which is already kind of happening. So season 1 is coming to an end tomorrow with me, who is autistic, autism dad, and also the neurodiversity lead at Response, the mental health support charity based in Oxford. And with everything that happened, besides me learning all of them because of their different experiences, I'm already having some ideas, and I'm asking for feedback from the guests, to see where I can improve. Even in terms of software, everything is really, simple. I'm using just Audacity, which is a free software.
Right, it's the best. We still use it here. Don't you worry about that.
Exactly. Yeah, and thinking about potentially virtual interviews like this one, because I am Portuguese. So I'm from Portugal. I have quite a few people there willing to be interviewed as well, but I can't be there physically all the time. And also I've had interest from people from other parts of the country. So if we can make this more efficient, I will. And then in terms of the journey itself, alongside the podcast, I started other initiatives. So I started going to my daughter's school, for example, and talking with the children about autism. And again, it was quite positive. Some of them, it empowered them to actually say, no, I'm autistic, I'm different. And that's fine, that's okay. So that's really, really good to see. I'm learning so much.
Yeah, it's amazing. What I love about this is that it's just the spark of an idea about going, hey, we're going to do a podcast, okay? And then from that, the ripples that come out of it are just fantastic and brilliant. And that's the exciting thing about this. It's not just kind of sitting in a room, recording yourself and going, oh, is anyone listening? What's happening? It's the ripple effect that happens with everything that goes on with the podcast. And to kind of give a little piece of advice back to you just about over what we've done here at Get Radio and what we're doing right now and having this conversation. This wouldn't have happened pre-pandemic. If I'd have said to a guest, oh yeah, you don't need to come into the studio. Oh, by the way, the studio, which is custom built, the studio which is soundproof, the studio which has got silent aircon, the studio that has got all this equipment in, the studio that costs this much to rent and what have you. Oh, you don't need to come in. You can just be at home in the comfort of your own home, turn your laptop on, and we can have a chat on the radio like that. It would have been unheard of, absolutely unheard of. Now it is commonplace. You listen to any podcast, you listen to any radio station, not that you should, it should just only be Get Radio, of course. But you listen to anything. Listen, you see people on the news, watching the TV. What are they on? They're on Zoom or Teams or whatever the equivalent is. And that's why we can open ourselves up to absolutely everyone, which is great. So that's sort of that's my tiny piece of advice back to you, Andreia, which is great. So I would say absolutely just go for it.
Yeah, thank you. I saw you were in France. Are you still there?
Yeah. Oh, yes. I'm still here. We're still here, and you're still here. So you're all good. All good. Hey, look, there's the problems with technology. Andreia, where can we find out a little bit more about your podcast? Available from all of the usual podcast places?
Yeah, so the three main ones are Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and it's also on YouTube. I know it's available on other platforms like Antenna Pod and the smaller ones. And you can follow on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, and I keep updating. So there's an episode every other Saturday. That's all I can do for now. And for season 2, there's quite a lot of amazing guests. So there will be Darren. He runs the Scent rugby sessions at Gosford All Blacks every Sunday. There will be Dr. J.D. Lai and Emma Jewett from the University of Oxford, who are researchers investigating autism. And also Dee, she's the CEO of Autism Champions. So these will be the 3 first guest stars of the season 2 of the Neurodiverse Voices podcast.
Amazing. I wish you every success with it. I'm sure it's going to be absolutely amazing and incredible. And we look forward to season 2. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Rich. Have a lovely day. Happy Friday. Bye.
And happy Friday to you too. That's fantastic. That's Andreia Costa there, who works at the University of Oxford Department of Psychiatry and the founder, as we've been hearing about, the Neurodiverse Voices podcast. Fascinating topic and a great listen as well. Make sure you download it from all the podcast places as we've just been hearing about.